What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of Blaze's collection. I, of course, am Blaze, and if you're seeing this blurry right now, it's because I have the focus turned a little bit down. But because I'm going to show off a little bit more of my decks and collection and cards that I've collected over the years. And I do thank you for tuning in. But this is the box that I'll be looking at today. Right here, I have about 5 more decks in this box that I've opened up, that I'm going to open up for you and let you take a look at. These are the cards that I've already gone through. I went through these on last week's episode, and Dark Charizard deck, Executor, Zubat, or Golbat deck, and I think this was a, I can't remember. Let's find out. This was a, what is it? What kind of deck is this? Oh, it's a Psychic deck with Haunter and Dark Golduck and stuff like that. So if you want to see what's in those boxes, check out episode 1. But we're going to go through with episode 2 right now and show off what else I have. And to be honest, I know that there are some... there is a Raindance deck in here. I'm going to get to that in just a second. So in this box right here, this is just deck protectors. Ultra Pro made them. I bought them. They're just clear ones. I know they have some that have like blue backs or red backs or whatever. And these are just basic. I bought these just because, and they've come in handy, and I put all my decks in them because they're way easier to shuffle. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Let's go ahead and open up these 3. So we'll start with this one. I don't have a box for it. Let me put it in frame. I don't have a box for this one, but it's a Slowpoke deck. We'll start there, and then we will move on to the other 2. But anyway, so this is a Slowpoke deck with Rattata and a few other cards. But the reason I like having these on here, and you see it in tournaments all the time, is people will shuffle these, and it just makes it so much easier to shuffle, and it's kind of rewarding too. It feels good to shuffle these like this. It's so cool. But it really works very well too, because you'll see if you grab like just a small stack and you put them in there, like, well, if they go, you'll see that it actually it mixes them up very, very well. And it just feels good. So anyway, let's look at this deck. So this is Abra. Abra does Vanish. Shuffle Abra back into your deck and Psyshock for 10 damage. Flip a coin and paralyze the defending Pokemon on heads. Dark Kadabra. So I think I got really into the Team Rocket set, and I made a lot of Dark type decks. And I think, to be honest, I bought a whole box of first edition Team Rocket cards, and I got every single card except for one card. And so I had a bunch of extra dark Kadabras and dark cards in general, anything from the Team Rocket set. Again, you'll notice it only has 50 HP. But its ability, Matter Exchange, once during your turn you may discard a card from your hand in order to draw a card. This power can't be used if you're asleep, confused, or paralyzed. Mind Shock. Don't apply weakness and resistance for this attack. Does 30 damage. So we know potions at this point in the game took away 2 damage counters. Bill, draw 2 cards. So Dark Alakazam. Let's look at Dark Alakazam for a second. Dark Alakazam only has 60 HP. That's low. That's like super low for a Pokemon. I think any stage 2 Pokemon should have much higher HP. It does Teleport Blast for 30 damage. You may switch Dark Alakazam with one of your benched Pokemon. And Mind Shock. Don't apply weakness and resistance for this attack. 40 damage. Not bad. Here comes Team Rocket. Each player plays his or her prize cards face up for the rest of the game. I think Town Map does this in the game today. But that's kind of it's a good card to know what's in your prize cards and what to take next. Here we go with Dark Slowbro. So 60 HP on Dark Slowbro. Its power, called Reel In, when you play Dark Slowbro from your hand, choose up to 3 basic Pokemon and or evolution cards from your discard pile and put them into your hand. And then Fickle Attack, flip a coin. If tails, it does nothing, but does 40 damage on heads, so that's not bad. We saw Abra. We saw Dark Kadabra, I believe. Did we see Dark Kadabra? Yeah. Did we? we glimpsed at it. Let's go ahead and go through Dark Kadabra real quick, because I don't think I explained it. So Dark Kadabra, 50 HP. I did talk about this one. I'm just having trouble seeing it in my... There it is. So yeah, we talked about Dark Kadabra already. Anyway. Dark Slowbro, Bill, Potion. The game's changed so much. I mean, it's so different now. And they put restrictions on certain cards that you can't use over and over again, which kind of makes sense in some ways, but in other ways it makes it more frustrating. So Slowpoke, 50 HP. This is a basic Pokemon that actually has a decent amount of HP. But Afternoon Nap is the first attack. Search your deck for a Psychic Energy and attach it to Slowpoke. Shuffle your deck afterwards. And then Headbutt does 10 damage. Anytime that you search your deck for anything, you should also be looking at the cards that are in your deck so you can determine what might be in your prize cards. Just as a heads up. Dark Raticate, 50 HP, Gnaw does 20 damage. Hyper Fang does 50, but does nothing on a Tails flip. I like this card, but the HP is so low, and you're not guaranteed to do 50 damage, so that's kind of scary. So Rattata, once during your turn, you may switch one of your prize cards, or one of your prizes with the top card of your deck. This power can't be used if you're asleep, confused, or paralyzed. Quick Attack does 10 damage and also does 10 more damage if heads, but nothing. It only does a 10 damage if tails. They're almost overly descriptive in some of these attack descriptions, and I think rightfully so in some cases. They kind of have to be. So that's pretty much the entire deck. I feel like this deck is actually pretty solid. And it's funny because I had these deck boxes. I bought a bunch of these back then. You can't find boxes like this anymore. These are like the coolest boxes ever. Wizards of the Coast made them. They don't make them anymore because they don't translate the game anymore. But I really do like these boxes. And there's boxes you can get now, but they don't look as cool. That's all I'm going to say. They don't look as cool. Alright, so let's look at the next deck. I don't know what deck this is. I feel like I should know, but I don't. This is a deck that I played with quite a bit, and I'll tell you why I know that. Because if you look at these sleeves have blue backs to them. I bought these sleeves because I wanted to protect this deck, and I did not know. Look at how easy that is. Oh, it's so good. But I use this deck a lot. If you don't know what it is, you're probably going to find out. I'm just going to shuffle this a little bit here. So this deck is my Raindance deck. So I talk a lot about Raindance and a lot about Deluge in my channel when I'm playing the trading card game. You can see it's a base set 2 Blastoise because I couldn't find enough base set 1 Blastoises, but Stage 2 Pokemon has 100 HP. Its ability, as often as you like during your turn, you may attach 1 water energy to one of your water Pokemon. This power, of course, can't be used if you're asleep, confused, or paralyzed. So this does not count towards the 1 energy per turn. And it only works for water Pokemon. So this deck has all water Pokemon, as you can imagine. This deck is very fast-paced. It gets energy out as quickly as possible. And the attack is Hydro Pump for 40 plus damage. It does 40 damage plus 10 more for each water energy attached to Blastoise, but not used to pay for this attack's energy cost. You can't add more than 20 damage this way. So if you have 5 energy on Blastoise, you're maxed out on damage, and you'll do 60 damage. Which is not really enough to knock anything out, but it can do some serious damage. Blastoise, really, you only get it out on your bench to use the power. That's pretty much the entirety of this card. So, of course, there's a lot of water energy in there. Misty's Poliwag, Hypnotic Stare, Flip a Coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. If tails, the defending Pokemon's asleep. And then Tail Wrap for 20 times damage, flip 2 coins, and 20 damage times the number of heads. Of course, Professor Oak lets you discard your hand and draw 7 cards. That's going to come in handy if you don't have the cards you need. Pokemon Breeder is essential to this deck because it allows you to put a Stage 2 evolution card from your hand on the matching basic Pokemon. You can only play this card when you would be allowed to evolve that Pokemon anyway. So of course there's a ton of energy in this deck, because there needs to be, because you want to get the energy out as quickly as possible. So this one is Energy Flow. For each of the Pokemon, for each of your Pokemon, you may return any number of energy cards attached to it to your hand. So you can just kind of get all of your energy back and redistribute them as often as you like. That's actually kind of cool. Squirtle, Bubble for 10 damage. Flip a coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon is paralyzed. And Withdraw, flip a coin. If heads, prevent all damage done to Squirtle during your opponent's next turn. So as you can imagine, this is probably my favorite deck that I've made in a long time. Of course, there's 3 Blastoise in this deck too, and I feel like I bought some of these cards like straight out, like on eBay or something. Misty's Poliwag. So Water Ring does 10 damage to each Pokemon that isn't on. For each Pokemon that isn't water on each player's bench. So it does 10 damage to each. So it does 30 damage plus it does 10 damage to each Pokemon that's not water type. Computer Search, of course, discard 2 cards, and then you can change up. You can get any card from your deck. Bill, draw 2 cards. Misty's Poliwhirl is an interesting card. So Rapids, if the defending Pokemon has any energy cards attached to it, flip a coin. If heads, choose one of those energy cards and discard it. 20 damage. And Water Punch, flip a number of coins equal to the number of water energy attached to Misty's Poliwhirl. Do 30 damage plus 10 damage for each heads. So, kind of a neat little attack there. It's not going to do a ton of damage, but it could end up doing a lot if you play your cards right. See what I did there? Dark Blastoise is another Pokemon that actually I put this in here because it can deal a lot of damage. It's not an official like cookie cutter Raindance deck. I kind of made this deck a little different. So Hydro Cannon does 30 damage plus 20 more damage for each water energy attached to Dark Blastoise, but not used to pay for this attack. You can't add more than 40 damage this way. And then Rocket Tackle does 40 damage. Dark Blastoise does 10 damage to itself. Flip a coin. If heads, prevent all damage done to Dark Blastoise during your opponent's next turn. That's actually a pretty good attack. Even though you hurt yourself, you might prevent all damage next turn. The 70 HP is a little concerning, but 40 is not bad. 40 damage is not bad. Pokemon Center, remove all damage counters from all of your own Pokemon with damage counters on them. Then discard all energy cards attached to those Pokemon. So that's pretty much all the cards in this deck. It's a very quick deck. So Articuno, 70 HP, Freeze Dry is the first attack, and that does 30 damage. Flip a coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. And Blizzard does 50. Flip a coin. If heads, the attack does 10 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And if tails, the attack does 10 damage to each of your own benched Pokemon. So Articuno is a decent Pokemon. It can deal a ton of damage. 50 is a lot for at this time, at this point in the game. Again, the game has changed a lot, so 50 today is not much. If you take this deck against any other deck, it may have a chance because of the speed of this deck, but it's going to get destroyed. So that's my Raindance deck. So I got one more deck to show off, and then we will move on. Let's see here. So the next deck I'm going to show off, I don't know what this is. Let's see what it is. I must use this deck a lot too because it has black covers on it. Black covers. So let's see what we got. Oh, this is actually another popular deck that I created. I think it's an edited version. But let's see if I can get this set up here. So the first card I'm going to show off in this deck is Scyther. Scyther's a very good Pokemon. And it does Slash for 30 damage and Sword Dance. During your next turn, Scyther's Slash attack does 60 instead of 30. So this deck is actually called Haymaker. Now I think I changed a couple of the cards out from this deck because I either didn't have them or there were better options once the Gym Leader set came out or once Team Rocket came out. But this is my version of Haymaker from back in the day. So Fearow, agility does 20 damage and you flip a coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all effective attacks including damage done to Fearow. And Drill Peck for 40 damage. That's actually a really good attack at this point in the game. 2 of those would kill a Fearow. 2 of those would kill Scyther because he only has 70 HP. 40 seems really low, but it's not. There's double colorless energy in here. There's 4 of those because you need them. There's a full heal energy so you can quit being paralyzed. Spearow so you can get that Fearow out. 10 damage for Peck and Mirror Move. If Spearow was attacked during your last turn, or on the last turn, do the final result of that attack on Spearow to the defending Pokemon. Could deal a ton of damage. Now one thing you'll notice too, I didn't notice this until just now, but the resistance on these cards is actually 30. So whereas in today's game it's minus 20, at this time in the game it was minus 30. That's interesting. So full heal energy, Gambler. We talked about Gambler. Shuffle your hand into your deck. Flip a coin. If heads, draw 8 cards. If tails, draw 1. Wigglytuff is kind of a staple in this deck because you kind of need it. Has 80 HP. It can put your opponent, the defending Pokemon, to sleep. And then Do the Wave does 10 damage plus 10 more for each of your bench Pokemon. It'll do 60 damage total with a full bench. There's enough basic Pokemon in this deck to actually go ahead and get your bench full, so it's kind of neat. Lullaby. Of course, you put your defending Pokemon to sleep, and then Pound does 20 damage. Plus Power works a little bit like Muscle Band. Attach Plus Power to your active Pokemon. At the end of your turn, discard Plus Power. If this Pokemon's attack does damage to the defending Pokemon, the attack does 20 more damage to the defending Pokemon. So that's useful for this deck and for really any deck. We've got some Grass Energy so we can power up Scyther. Potion Energy. If you play this card from your hand, remove 1 damage counter from the Pokemon you attach it to, if it has any. It also provides 1 colorless energy. Energy removal. Choose 1 energy card and attach it to one of your opponent's Pokemon and discard it. Of course, Professor Oak, discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Bill, draw 2 cards. I think there's 4 plus powers in here. Gust of Wind will help you switch out your opponent's Pokemon with a benched Pokemon to either get an instant KO or just to disrupt him a little bit. So that's pretty much this deck. I think that's it. Computer search, discard, of course, discard 2 of your cards, and then search your deck for any card. Can come in handy. But this deck's had a lot of success early on in the game. There was a lot of really fun things you could do with it. It was very fast-paced, did a lot of damage, and it was just overall fun to play. As far as the other decks, the Raindance deck and this deck actually were very well constructed, and I loved playing them. As far as the other decks that I've shown you so far, they weren't quite as fun to play, but they were constructed, and I wouldn't say they were constructed well, but they were constructed. How about that? It was, I was a kid when I made them, and I didn't really know exactly what I was getting into. But I was able to make a Haymaker deck, or at least a variation on it, and of course I was able to make a Raindance, which is always my dream. It's still my dream today in the new game. So I'll go ahead and show off one more deck because we got a little bit of time left. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. And I've only got one other deck, which I'm not going to go into great detail on. But this is the last deck, the second to last deck in the box. This is the one I'm not going to go into great detail on, simply because it's very poorly constructed. The sleeves I'm using are super flimsy, and they have like this excess room on the top. It's a fighting deck with Dark Dragonair. So Dark Dragonair, you may search your deck for an evolution card, put it into your hand, and Tailstruck does 20 damage. Flip a coin. If heads, do 20 damage plus 20 more damage, and if tails, you just do 20 damage. Dratini's Wrap does 10 damage, and you can paralyze the opponent on a heads flip. Dark Dragonite. The power is summon minions. When you play Dark Dragonite from your hand, search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them into your bench. 70 HP on Dark Dragonite. Giant Tail does 70 damage, and if you flip a coin, if tails, the attack does nothing. Dark Machoke. Drag out. Before doing damage, choose one of your opponent's benched Pokemon and switch it with the defending Pokemon. Do the damage to the new defending Pokemon. Can't use this attack if they don't have any benched Pokemon, so that's kind of neat. And then Knockback. If your opponent has any benched Pokemon, he or she chooses one of them and switches it with the defending Pokemon. Do the damage before the switch. So you can kind of push them back and then draw them out. Kind of neat. Switch. Potion. Pokeball. I don't want to go into too much detail on this deck because I obviously didn't care about this deck enough to give it better sleeves. I have enough. I can probably switch them out, but I'm not going to do that. Machop does punch for 20 and kick for 30. High energy cost on that Pokemon though, so that's kind of interesting. Dark Dug Trio. Sinkholes. The power whenever your opponent's active Pokemon retreats, they flip a coin. If tails, this power does 20 damage to that Pokemon. Knockdown does 20 damage. And if tails, it does 20 damage plus 20 more damage. If heads, the attack does 20 damage. Diglett is Dig Under. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. The attack does 10 damage to that Pokemon. So any Pokemon. And then Scratch for 20. Let's see. This is pretty much the deck here. Another Dark Machamp. So Mega Punch for 30. And then Fling. Your opponent shuffles his or her active Pokemon and all cards attached to it into his or her deck. This can't be used if your opponent has no benched Pokemon. So I don't like the 30 damage. I think that should be more. This attack can't even be used if they don't have any benched Pokemon. So you're stuck doing 30 damage on a Stage 2 Pokemon with only 70 HP. So this card isn't really that great. But then again, 30 damage isn't really that bad in this age. So I guess there were 2 Dark Machamps. Or that's Machoke, sorry. I thought that was Machamp. My fault. So we have one more deck to go through. I just wanted to kind of show off that generic deck that I slapped together. I don't even think I played this deck very much. I just kind of threw it together. But now we're going to go through the last deck that I have. This is kind of like the Raindance deck, but a little different. This is a Dark Blastoise deck. So we'll go through these cards here a little bit. I'll try and go quickly. I've got a little bit of time left. But Dark Wartortle. Double Slap is flip 2 coins and do 10 damage times the number of heads. Mirror Shell is if an attack does damage to Dark Wartortle during your opponent's next turn, Dark Wartortle attacks the defending Pokemon for an equal amount of damage. And it's even if you get knocked out. Squirtle does 20 damage on Shell attack. I like this Squirtle because the artwork is cool and because the damage is reliable and consistent. 50 HP at this time is not bad, but I do like this card. We saw the Boss's Way. Search for an evolution card and put it into your hand. Pokeball, we know what that does. So Dark Gyarados. Let's talk about Dark Gyarados for a second. This card is bad. I like it because it does consistent damage, but let's take a look at it. It's only got 70 HP. Gyarados in today's day and age has 130 HP. Ridiculous. This is also a pre-release card, so I got this card as a promo or something like that. But this card is really like not that great. Ice Beam, the attack does 30 damage and potentially paralyzes the defending Pokemon on a heads flip. The power Final Beam, when Dark Gyarados is knocked out by an attack, flip a coin. If heads, the power does 20 damage for each water energy attached to Dark Gyarados to the Pokemon that knocked out Dark Gyarados. Apply Weakness and Resistance. It can't be used if he was paralyzed confused or asleep while he's being knocked out. So this card could deal some decent damage. It's 20 damage for each water energy, so if he gets knocked out, you're looking at getting 60 damage of retaliation. So that could be bad, but 70 HP is so low, and 30 damage is low as well. 2 retreat cost isn't bad for a stage 1, but this Magikarp is a little bit more reliable, flop for 10 damage. Oh, and Rapid Evolution's pretty good because you get to search your deck for an evolution card named Gyarados or Dark Gyarados, put it on Magikarp, and shuffle your deck afterwards. Pretty solid Magikarp. If you can get it out into your active Pokemon slot with 3 water energy, you might be sitting pretty at that point. Oh no! That's not supposed to happen. I'm sorry, guys. We're back. We're back. Anyway, so Nightly Garbage Run. Choose up to 3 basic Pokemon cards, evolution cards, and or basic energy cards from your discard pile. Show them to your opponent and shuffle your deck. Shuffle them into your deck. So I like this deck. I remember playing it and doing quite well with it. But some of these cards are a little scary. So I showed off Dark Blastoise a little bit earlier on the Raindance deck. But Hydro Cannon does 30 damage plus 20 more damage for each water energy attached to Dark Blastoise, but not used to pay for this card's attack or for this attack. And you can't add more than 40 damage. And Rocket Tackle, 40 damage. Dark Blastoise has 10 damage to itself, but you might prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's active Pokemon. This deck also has an Eevee with Dark Vaporeon in it as well. Bite does 30 damage, and Whirlpool does 20. If the defending Pokemon has any energy cards attached to it, choose one of them and discard it. So that's actually a pretty decent attack for 20 damage. Bites for 30. It's not going to knock anything out first hit, and 60 HP is kind of low, but I love Vaporeon, so I really can't even be upset. I showed off Eevee earlier in this video, so that's Eevee in this deck as well. I think that's the entirety of this deck. There's nothing else that really stands out, nothing else that... I have 2 Dark Blastoise in this deck, so I don't know. I mean, I think that it's kind of a neat deck, and I feel like it did quite well when I played it, but I didn't play it very often because it was a... it was kind of slapped together with cards that I just had laying around. So it doesn't complement each other. I know that in today's game you kind of have to get cards that complement each other and help out, but it's just a deck that I just put together. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. Believe me, there are plenty more cards in my collection that I'd love to go through, so if you'd like to see that, hit that like button. I'll be back in a few days with another episode of Blaze's Collection. And until then, I will see you next time. Peace out.